My name is Oliviero Angeli. I'm the scientific coordinator of MIDEM, Migration Forum Migration and Democratie. Before I present our speaker today, I should remind everyone connected online that we are going to record this session, this talk, to make it afterwards available to those who have missed it. I'm very delighted to introduce our guest, which is actually not only our guest, it's more than our guest. She's our visiting fellow at the moment at MIDEM, Iuliia Lashchuk. She is going to present a paper today on being, this is the title, being a refugee woman, intersectionality and labor market integration, insights from the Ukrainian case in Poland, Italy, and Germany. Let me just say a very few words about Iuliia. Iuliia Lashchuk is a researcher, migration activist, and this year's, as I said, MIDEM visiting fellow here in Dresden. She's a Max Weber Fellow at the European University Institute, focusing particularly on female migration. She holds a PhD in philosophy from the University of Warsaw, and she's a member of the Ukrainian Migration Research Network, as she comes originally from Ukraine, although you spent most of your academic life, so to say, abroad in Poland and Italy particularly. Today's talk, her talk today is a kind of work in progress, as she is still collecting data from the German case. That's why you might be keen to get especially feedbacks on the German case, and I guess that some experts from Germany will be also connected online. Iuliia will be presenting for around 30 minutes, and of course we will have afterwards an open discussion to which also those connected online via Zoom can participate. That's it, Iuliia. We are very much looking forward to your talk. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Oliviero. First of all, I would like to say thank you to the MIDEM team. It's a great honor and privilege to be here with you and to be able to present my work in progress, as Oliviero already said. So I must say that this German case is quite new for me. So I'm still collecting the data, and something that I will present today is something that I've noticed so far. So basically, if you have any comments, critical comments, please feel free to intervene, ask questions, express your opinions, and so on. So I will try to share the screen. And also, I would like to say thank you to all people who agreed to speak to me during the last 2 weeks, experts and migrants. Your insights were really, really helpful for my research. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, you can see it. Yes, okay. So the topic of today's talk is being a refugee woman, intersectionality, and market integration. I will bring those examples from 3 countries, from 3 case studies, Poland, Italy, and Germany. The structure of the presentation is as follows. So I know that among us there are people of academia, but also people outside of academia. So I was asked to explain briefly the terminology that I use, such as integration and intersectionality. Then we will delve deeper into a Ukrainian context and Ukrainian point of view on this, Polish, Italian, and German contexts. And then I will try to collect all those thoughts into one table just to see the insights, to compare the insights from these 3 case studies. So first of all, let's speak about the integration. what do we know so far is that the forced migrants differ from labor migrants in their willingness, readiness, and possibility to enter the job market. So they were not prepared. They were not planning in advance their journey. Many of them is what we also see from the Ukraine case. They were professionally active before leaving their country. So they are not looking for jobs right away because they are not economic migrants. They are people escaping the war. And this difference is very important here. Moreover, there is a huge difference between refugee women and refugee men. As refugee women face so-called triple disadvantage, which are the challenges related to their gender, their immigrant status. So basically, they are people who migrate, but they also migrate for the certain reasons. So they are refugees, they are forced migrants. Also, we know that economic integration of refugees presupposes not only financial, political, and legal mechanisms, but also a recognition of their skills and motivations. And this is the key point of my presentation. I think someone has to mute themselves.
Yeah, you muted.
Yeah. Okay, and also we know that almost 60% of employed forced migrants in the EU, not just Ukrainians, all the refugees, are overqualified for the jobs they're doing, which means that the labor integration understood just as simply undertaking jobs is not enough. That said, under the definition of successful integration, because we always hear these two words together, right? Successful integration into a labor market. So I understand not only a simple natural absorption of the forced migrants by the national job market, what we could to some extent see in the case of Poland, but taking into account both context and migrant refugees' personal situations in sending and receiving countries. So basically, if you imagine the triangle of migration, we have Ukrainian perspective on migration, and we know that from the very beginning, Ukraine was very clear that she wants those people back. We have the perspective of EU countries who also have their let's say, problems, issues, views on this topic. And we always have the migrants themselves or forced migrants themselves, and their perspective is very often overlooked. So we have those three actors in this situation. Facilitating inclusive employment that would adequately correspond with forced migrants' professional skills and aspirations. Acknowledging their migratory grief and the way it influences their choices. Those are the people who lost a lot. They lost their social contacts, they lost their jobs, they very often lost their loved ones. They are in this very specific psychological situation that has to be taken into consideration. And last but not least, we have to remember about the gender needs and addressing those gender needs and preventing gender-based discrimination. And here I put before and during. So before entering the labor market, so those women can actually see that they are welcomed there, that they are able to enter the job market, and during, so they actually know when they're already there, they will be supported. A few words on intersectionality for those who are not familiar with this concept. I apply this concept as a methodological lens for my research, which means that together with a refugee experience, we also have a gender that intersects with this experience, but also with some other characteristics such as skin color, especially class, ability or disability, mental health, age, education, language, what else? So basically different ethnicity, different vulnerabilities that are overlapping, and they put those women, or might put those women, in the situation of very extreme discrimination. Okay, so the research questions that I'm trying to answer with my research are as follows. What challenges do Ukrainian women face while entering the EU job market? How do receiving countries facilitate job market integration? What are the differences between the 3 chosen countries and their approaches? And what would have changed if Ukrainian men could leave Ukraine and the gender ratio was different? Because we know that now Ukrainian refugees in the European Union are mostly women with children. 2/3 of them have children or other dependents. And Ukrainian men cannot leave Ukraine because of the martial law. So basically, a man between 18 and 60 years old cannot leave, with some exceptions, but still the majority cannot leave. Let's briefly explain the Ukrainian context. As we know so far, since 2022, so the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the population of Ukraine has decreased significantly, and current migration numbers are higher than any other indicator since Ukraine's independence in 1991. It is also estimated that population of Ukraine will continue to decrease, unfortunately, even to 33 million by 2050. We also can predict that the highest risks of non-return are associated with 2 main groups, such as vulnerable individuals and groups, single mothers with young children, large families, or people with special needs. So basically those who might count on some social support in the countries that host them now, as well as highly skilled individuals. So people who can quickly integrate into a new job market, who know languages, who had previously some professional contacts in those countries, and who can quickly or relatively quickly adapt to new conditions. We also know that since February 2022, even up to 15 million people have lost their employment in Ukraine, but this data is a bit it is difficult to name the precise numbers because the war is still going on, and we currently don't have any information from the hostility zones or the territories under occupation. So now let's move to a Polish context. Poland has a very long history of Ukrainian migration and the labor migration in particular, which for a long time was mostly temporary and circular. And since 2015, so basically after the annexation of Crimea and the beginning of war in Donbass, we can also observe a permanent migration to Poland. Also, if previous migration was mostly from the western part of Ukraine, after 2015, more often people or the whole families from the eastern part of Ukraine migrate to Poland. Although this migration is a typical, so the majority of this migration is a typical economic migration, but we also have very, let's say, diverse reasons to migrate. So one of them is, for example, Ukrainian entrepreneurship in Poland that has been developing very quickly since 2015, also because of the simplified procedures. The pre-war migration to Poland is mostly male-dominated, more than 60% were male. What is also significant in this example, and it differs Polish context from, for example, Italian and German, is a common history. a common border, and a similar language. Although we have to keep in mind that the similarities don't mean the absence of differences, and it has to be addressed accordingly. But still, it is easier to adapt in Poland because of the similar language and culture. We also have a huge Ukrainian minority in Poland. So those are not migrants, those are people with Polish passports who were born in Poland, but they are Ukrainian, identify as Ukrainian. And we also have very active diaspora and very, very developed social network and migration infrastructure. Even before 2022. And thanks to these factors, the diaspora work, a social network, the reception of Ukrainians in Poland was was very successful because basically those people took on them the burden of reception and later in integration of newly arrived. Also, what is worth noticing that Poland had the most liberal access to the labor market for non-EU foreigners even before 2022, mostly for so-called post-Soviet countries, but also because Polish economy was developing very quickly. They needed many workers to fill in the gaps, so they were attracting workers from Ukraine, from Belarus, but also from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Georgia, and even from Nepal, India, and some Latin American states. So just to give you an idea about the numbers, in 2021, a total of more than 500,000 work permits were issued in Poland, and 64.5% of them were issued to Ukrainian citizens. So you can imagine the proportions. Also, it is important to notice that many of those who arrived in Poland after 2022 had previous migration experience to this country. Many of them didn't have any experience, but some of them, they actually had the previous migration experience specifically to Poland, and they at least had some basic knowledge of language. So now let's move to Italian context. The Ukrainian migration to Italy is a history of irregular migration. And it was female dominated from the very beginning because of the works available, mostly care work. So even before 2022, around 80% of Ukrainian migrants in Italy were women that were located mostly in Milan, Lombardia, Naples, Campania, Rome, and Bologna. Women started migrating to Italy in the late 90s. So at the beginning, it was a survival strategy, basically because of the very difficult economic and political situation in Ukraine after Ukraine gained its independence in 1991. And those women followed already established waves of migration established by Polish women in the who were migrating like this in the early 90s. So as I already said, it was irregular migration, although Italian state needed those workers because of the type of the population. So the Italian society is aging, and the care workers are very much needed. But the state, unfortunately, did quite little or even nothing to address the needs of those workers that were arriving in Italy. And for the first time, those needs were addressed in 2002 by the sanatoria, which was a law introduced by the state that allowed irregular migrants to finally legalize their stay in Italy. So, which means that many of those women who arrived in the late 90s, they could finally travel to Ukraine and see their families and kids who were already growing up. Also, what is interesting about this type of migration, women were arriving primarily through social networks. And this is exactly what we observed in 2022, because women escaping the war, they were coming to Italy mostly to their family in France, and they were also hosted mostly by their family members and friends, because the situation with free social housing in Italy is very, very problematic, and it was very problematic even before 2022. The Ukrainian jobs. This is something that I have to underline in this context. So basically, the Ukrainian women since the 90s, they were working mostly in care services, so-called badante, that presupposes living in jobs with your employers. So basically 24 hours per 7 employment with only 1 day off. What happened after 2022, many of those women, highly educated women, women with children that arrived in Italy, they were expected, logically, to take those jobs, the so-called Ukrainian jobs as well. It wasn't possible for 2 reasons, because they had children they had to take care of, and they just couldn't perform those jobs that required 24 hours to be there for 24 hours. But also, this is not why they were coming to Italy. So what was interesting about this Italian context, that the life of those previous economic migrants in Italy was divided between 2 countries. Their professional life was entirely happening in Italy, while their personal life was left in Ukraine. So they were kind of stretching all the time between those 2 countries. Something what Francesca Vianello calls being a suspended migrant. So they were kind of, not here and not there. And they were facing, very often they were facing the situation of double absence. So they were absent in both countries at the same time. Okay, and now let's move to a German context. So here we have quite a comparatively small group of Ukrainian citizens residing in the country before 2022. They were mostly located in Berlin, Munich, Hanover, so big cities. What is very interesting about this case is that a share of Ukrainians amongst the foreign population in the former East Germany was higher compared to other national groups who preferred West Germany. So here, I think the geography and geographical closeness to Ukraine, or to Poland at least, plays a crucial role. And in Germany, we also have very active diaspora and a significant share of academic migration, what can be seen also now, because many Ukrainians work in academia and research institutions in Germany. So let's now try to compare some data that I've collected so far. So Ukrainians in those countries, the Poland is, before 2022, right? Poland is leading with approximately 1.5 million of Ukrainians residing in the country. Then we have Italy with 230,000, but again here, attention, because we are speaking about people with valid residence permits here. So basically the number of those irregular migrants might be even, I don't know, even double. And in Germany, it's 155,000 of Ukrainians. So the main reason of stay in Poland is definitely employment. In Italy, it's employment and family, at least for those regular migrants. And in Germany, it's mostly family, but also studies and, of course, employment. The gender composition differs as well. We have male domination, as I already mentioned, in Poland, a female-dominated migration in Italy, and in Germany it was more or less half and half, but with a slight domination of females, like more than 50%. Okay, the TPD, Temporary Protection Directive, the document that was introduced triggered in March 2022 as a response to the war in Ukraine. In Poland, we have this special document that is called special law. In Italy, they call it Emergenza Ucraina, and in Germany, Ukrainians receive protection under Section 24 of the Residence Act. So for now, the persons under Temporary Protection Directive, in Italy, we have 164,000 people, in Poland a bit less than 1 million, and in Germany 1,300,000. The social benefit, the social support is also differs from country to country. In Italy, I would say, is the most precarious situation because beneficiary of temporary protection were entitled of 300 euros or 150 euros for children per month, per only 3 first months after their arrival in Italy. As I already said, this free social housing was very, very limited. So the majority of those who arrived in Italy, they stayed with their family, friends, or Italian families who opened their houses for them. But of course, it's not very, let's say, a long-term solution. And they were entitled also to a healthcare, free healthcare. In Poland, it was a bit different. There was a program 40 plus introduced. So basically every family or every house that was hosting Ukrainians could apply for payment of 40 zlotych per day per person, which is like 8 euros more or less, for maximum for 120 days, and also a program family 500 plus was available for temporary protection holders, which was basically a support for every child in the family. Again, healthcare, and what is also interesting, the simplified conditions for entrepreneurs to open their companies or move their companies to Poland. And in Germany, as many of you know, so the temporary protection holders are registered at German jobs centers. So basically they receive the same payments as unemployed German citizens, which is between 451 and 563 euros for adults. It depends on if you're single or a couple, or if you live in the provided accommodation or private accommodation. And also 357, between 357 and 471 euros for children. Also free housing that is provided or that is kind of supported, paid by the job centers, healthcare, and what is very important, so-called integration course, which is very intensive language course aimed to simplify their entrance into a labor market. Also, in case of Germany and Poland, it was possibly to exchange this residence permit into another kind of residence permit, such as, for example, a labor residence permit. Because of the labor. In Italy, it wasn't possible since 2024, but now this this year's decreto was actually allowed Ukrainians to exchange their permesso di soggiorno, the residence permit, also to another one. So this might be, my guess, might be related also to the fact that the temporary protection is almost over. It's until March 2025, and basically Italian states tries to kind of prevent and to push Ukrainians to enter the labor market. So at the end of the day, they are not just left without anything, right? So if it comes to a labor market, in those three countries, the labor market needs, in those three countries, there is a big need of high-skilled professionals, such as health professionals, also engineers, educators, teachers, but also people who would work in agriculture, hospitality, and care. Unemployment rate between countries differs significantly, especially between Poland and Italy. A minimum wage is better in Germany. So in Poland, you can earn only half of the German salary. In Italy, and it's very problematic in this context, not only for Ukrainians, there is no minimum wage. Which creates very often the situation of exploitation, especially for those vulnerable groups who are not protected, who are not able to protect themselves because they don't know the language, they don't know the law, and so on. So for now, again, this is a very let's say unclear data about the labor market integration. We have a leading country, Poland, with more or less 65%. But again, this data includes people who work with different types of contracts. So it's full-time jobs, part-time jobs, jobs like working a few hours per week, or even those who just work like for some time and they quit the jobs. So basically, it's like all together, right? So we have to be really careful with this data. In Italy, it's around 19% of legal employment. Again, keep this in mind. And in Germany, it's around 21%, including so-called mini jobs, which is a part-time jobs with a maximum monthly income of 538 euros. Something that was also interesting for me, what was different, how Ukrainian women looking for jobs. So in Poland and in Italy, because of the very strongly developed social networks, those are the first places where they come when they look for jobs. So to social networks, they ask friends of the friends, some ex-colleagues, and so on. Also online, In Germany, it's mostly online and through job centers. Also, what differs Poland and Italy from German case is that in Poland and in Italy, there are so-called Ukrainian sectors. So basically those sectors where Ukrainians were employed before 2022. This also creates the pressure for those who just arrived after 2022 to undertake jobs in those specific sectors, especially, as I mentioned, Italy. Ukrainian women are expected to agree for those jobs, and it also creates tensions within the society because when they refuse. So there are also, I try to identify some special programs in every country. I think the most interesting case is a German one with this Job Turbo program that I see people are very skeptical about this one. We can discuss this later. Maybe I don't have time to go deep into it. But the idea of this program was basically a good one. So how to simplify and accelerate the labor market integration of Ukrainians in Germany. But later on, we can discuss why some people think it failed. And also something that is very address gender needs of women. Those are the language courses with integrated childcare available in Germany. But the problem is that so it's not a common practice. So basically, we have this in policy, written on paper, right? But well, it doesn't really work everywhere. Okay, and some general challenges that, oh, you cannot really see it right now. Okay, because I wanted to underline the challenges that are similar for three countries, which are temporariness and surprisingly language, because although a Polish language is similar to Ukrainian, but the problem is the proficiency of the language, right? So even if you claim that you understand the language, and you might understand the language, you might be able to say something, or I don't know, order food in the restaurant. But in order to undertake the high-skilled jobs, you need a certain level of language proficiency. So it takes time, even in case of Poland. So those two things are similar for three countries. Of course, in case of Germany, and Italy, it's even harder, because those are totally different languages, and it takes even more time to become proficient in those languages. Also, women reported the fact, especially in cases of Poland and Italy, that they feel being forced to turn into labor migrants, because Germany at least gives the possibility to take it slower. So there are some social benefits that actually cover the basic needs, while in Poland and Italy, it is very difficult to actually make a living. And women are forced to undertake some, well, even simple jobs just to make a living, just to provide for their families. Which leads very often to work below qualifications. They also report a lack of support, economic precarity, because many of them, although they work, even full-time work, it not necessarily covers their basic needs. In case of Italy, women report lack of information, because even for me, I speak Italian and I study this case, and even for me, it is very difficult to find the proper information online. Also, we have to keep in mind that there is a big, the significant share of older women who are not very good with finding information online, and somehow they are very often overlooked when we try to I don't know, address their needs, right? We create like applications for phones that older women do not really use and something like this. So we have to really take care about these differences with intersectionality in mind. And also a problem for Italy is logistics, because many women ended up in smaller cities or villages. And for those of you who know Italian specific transport situation, well, it is not really possible to move without the car. And some of them, they report that they are just stuck there without the possibility to look for a job, to apply for some better jobs elsewhere. In case of Germany, there are also problems that are reported, qualification recognitions, bureaucracy, and very, very long waiting time, especially if it comes to language courses that is supposed to be very quick, so to accelerate this quick integration into a labor market. But in order to apply for the language course, you have to take a test. Then you have to wait for the results of your test. That you have to apply with the results of your test to a job market. Then you have to a job center. Then you have to wait again to hear back from the job center. Then when you finish, let's say the A1 level, you have to do the exam. You have to again wait for the results of the exam in order to apply for A2. So it takes ages. It's not very like fast process. And some gender-specific challenges that I saw in those three case studies. Childcare. So very often Ukrainian refugees are compared to those from the previous migration flows, especially to Assyrian ones. But again, we have to keep in mind that we are talking here about the women with children. And also what is common for three countries under study is a separation from family members and husbands. So basically what makes them the only providers for the family, but also the only decision makers for the family. And of course, it affects their plans for the future, to stay or to leave, because families are separated by the border. Also in cases of Poland and Italy, also in Germany, but maybe a bit not that extreme, the choice is very limited. So the offers are gendered. And again, as I said, there are those niche jobs, the Ukrainian sectors. All three countries have problems with affordable and safe housing for women. And also in Poland and Italy, women very often report different forms of exploitation. So I will stop here and invite you for the discussion. But before, I would just like to share some of my thoughts after what I've discovered during my study. So the one that is not perfect, but the most person-oriented form of support is the German model, which is of course not perfect and has many let's say, challenges, but it gives something that is very important for refugees, time to at least recover, rethink the situation, and it doesn't push them to undertake jobs just to survive, just to make living and have food for their children. So we can discuss this later if you want to, especially this job turbo program that is actually a bit a step back, let's say, because it what it does, it tries to push women to enter the labor market faster. And that's why I put that as a second one, this expectation topic. So do we prefer speed over quality or quality over speed? Because it seems to me that the initial expectations or initial, let's say, idea of German state was actually equality. So to give those people time to gain some knowledge and also improve their language, so we don't have to waste their skills. Now it seems to change a bit, this expectation. So this is also an open question for me for now. Another question is how this national interest, because we know that European countries are aging and they will need workers to fill in the gaps. And Ukrainians are, let's say, a perfect fit, right? Because of also their previous migration experience and so on. But what about the solidarity towards Ukrainian state that clearly states that it wants Ukrainian workers, Ukrainian citizens back to rebuild the country after the war? So how do we, what do we do with this, right? Do we, what policies should be developed to address the possibility of many Ukrainians leaving to Ukraine after the war? Also, how do we address this temporariness and how do we turn it into a sustainability? How do we promote, how do we keep in mind vulnerability and the special needs of women, but at the same time, how do we promote their agency and let them decide for themselves? And the last open question for me is this need to foresee different forms of mobility, because I claim that after the war is over, such form of mobility as, for example, circular mobility or like transnational works will take place. So also, how do we address them in terms of policies available for those people? So I will stop here and invite you for the discussion. Thank you so much.